Možeš početi. If you like to start.
Well, let me think. Okay. Okay. So, hi everyone, and welcome to User Experience, User Interface Design Introduction. So, what would I like to talk to you about today? Well, what I'm hoping you will learn by the end of this presentation. So, we're going to talk about the difference between user experience and user interface design. I will also give you some key points on what you actually need to start designing. And we're going to cover some tools that are, in my opinion, the best ones if you want to start out with user interface and user experience design. So let me introduce myself if somebody doesn't know me yet. I am Matea. I am a user experience designer. I've been doing this for 4 years now. And yeah, I've worked on almost over 50 projects, all kinds of projects. So this is something that I'm kind of proud of, but okay. So what exactly is user experience, user interface design? So there is a difference. User experience refers to user experience design, which means how the product will feel like. And user interface design stands for user interface design, self-explanatory. UI design stands for user interface design. And that is how a product will look like. And I'm going to start with explaining user experience because that term is a bit more complex than user interface itself. And as we can see here, user experience consists of, let's say, 5 planes, 5 levels, 5, I don't know, whatever you want to call them. And those are surface, skeleton, structure, scope, and strategy. And user interface is here only the top level, so the thing that the user actually sees. I like to compare this to the, let's call it iceberg model. So everything beneath the surface is user experience, and everything above the surface, that itsy bitsy tiny piece up there, is user interface design. So when it comes to user experience, there is a lot of things to cover. So you need to know how to strategize, you need to know how to communicate with the developers, with the stakeholders, with the client, and your job is basically to put all the pieces together to match the client's needs, the technical possibilities from the developer side, and the wishes from the stakeholders. So you kind of need to juggle all the three things together. User interface design, on the other hand, as we said before, is only a piece of, it's only a part of user experience design, but it's equally important as user experience design because if you don't create visuals as good as the whole underlying layer, then the whole project is doomed. You need to have good visuals that follow the whole user experience. So user interface is basically the surface, the things that are seen by clients, by people, users, and the whole user interface process consists of creating mock-ups, iterating those with the clients, low fidelity, high fidelity mock-ups, and in the very end there is a visual design. And visual design is, that final part is important because it sells. So visuals always sell in a way. User interface is also important in terms of making users' interactions as smooth and as easy as possible. And the main focus here is on the usability. I like this quote quite a lot because user interface is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's not that good. And it's something that that you really need to think about when you're designing, when you're entering the whole process, because if you have to pay someone to explain your design, like a product trainer or anyone who is in the end communicating with the clients and explaining your product, your design to somebody else, then you're losing money and it's pointless. The visuals, the whole design UI needs to be self-explanatory, at least in my opinion. What about tools, equipment? So I'm not going to debate whether Windows is better than Apple or vice versa, because I personally use both Windows and Apple. Windows for gaming stuff and Apple for business stuff, because Apple, at least in my case, is it's more efficient. It gets me work done, and it doesn't crash, and I don't get blue screens of that very often, and I don't need to handle annoying updates from Windows and stuff like that, especially when I have a lot of work to do. And Windows, I mean, I use it mostly for gaming, and most of the games that are available on Windows, so that's why I use it. Regarding the tools, if you're a beginner, if you're first starting out, then the best thing is to go with Adobe XD, because first of all, it's free, it's available to download, and its user interface is quite simple. But as you progress, as you get into more professional, more serious stuff, if you're starting to work on complex projects that require, I don't know, giant system design libraries, then Sketch is far better option. It is kind of pricey. It's $100 per year, and it's only available for MacBook. But if you want to do that, if you want to do user experience professionally, then in my opinion, this is the best option you can get. One more thing, Adobe XD. I like it because, so when you're designing, when you're creating like a design for a client or somebody, it's good to have like a clickable prototype, if that makes sense. So when you send out design to the end user, he needs to feel that design and click on it, interact with it. Oops, I accidentally selected it. Thank you. You need to hand out the project to the end user so that you feel the design and interact with it. Because later on, when the implementation of the set design actually starts, when the developer starts coding your design, slicing it, and when the user actually gets the hand-on feeling of the design, then the problems start. The user wants, I don't want this, I want this interaction to be a little bit different, I want this to be another color, because in that phase, the user gets another feeling of the product. It's different when you look at the product in a PNG file and you scroll around, or when you actually click on it and interact with it and see how the end is actually going to look like. And XD has a great feature because it has prototyping tools integrated within the tool. The Sketch has a similar stuff, but it's not as good as Adobe's. So when it comes to prototyping, I always choose XD. When you're starting out, when you want to design something, let's say a product, website, doesn't matter, you don't need to dive into the tool immediately. I'm going to just create some mock-ups, gray, black and white, whatever. You can just take a piece of paper and quickly create a rough sketch of your product, of your design, whatever you're working on at the moment. It will save you some time, and it's easier to throw out all of your thinking onto a piece of paper. You also need a lot of patience because knowledge of these tools they are simple, they are intuitive, but it won't come to you overnight. So you have to be aware of that. You need a lot of patience. You need to have an ambition, of course, and practice. Take smaller projects, practice on them. You can even, I don't know, make up your own website, product, whatever, and just start sketching and create some prototypes. There are cool sites on which you can promote your work, like Dribble. You can you have Behance also, and you also have Behance and Dribble are in fact the most popular ones. And at least for me, they kind of motivate me even more to create something outside of my work. If I just wanna, exercise or I don't know, just create something different. Of course, on the internet you're gonna find tutorials for user interface and user experience design, and you can combine all of that and just start as you feel like it. So you're probably asking yourself how to become a designer. So designer is so far we have mentioned user experience, user interface design, user experience design on itself, and user interface design again on itself. So what is what? Like we have user experience, we have standalone user experience designers. We have user interface designers, and then we have a combo of user experience and user interface designer. So user experience and user interface designer is a combination of the two parts, and basically those designers do a little bit of everything. They define strategy, content, communicate with stakeholders, clients, developers, and then in the end they by themselves create the whole user interface design, the final visuals. But if the company is bigger, if they have resources, then they like to divide the two, and then you have a specialized user experience designer, which creates only content, strategy, etc. And then you have a separate user interface design who only focuses on the final visual aspect of the website. There are also interaction designers who focus on where should this button lead to, or how this interaction will feel like. They create animations and stuff. Then you have user experience writers. They focus on the content of the website. So there's a whole bunch of wide variety of let's call them designers. You can basically, if you get into too much detail, you can basically design every detail of the website. But for now, we just need to know user experience, user interface design. I googled how to become a UX designer, and this is one of the answers that I got. And these are actually steps, and if you follow these steps, you will become a UX designer, 100%, like totally. So you need to enroll in a tech-related bachelor's degree program, because bachelor's degree will definitely lead you to a successful IT career. I would disagree. I mean, you don't need necessarily a diploma if you want to work in IT. I mean, everyone will tell you that. It can help you a little bit in terms of, you will handle terminology a little bit better, maybe. Like the databases, I don't know, all the basic elementary stuff you do on college. But in the long run, like, I didn't go to school for UX designer. I went to college, IT college, where they taught us how to, what is a mouse, the ergonomics of a monitor, and what is a chair, stuff like that. So I didn't learn my job at the college. Grow skill sets and become tech savvy, focus on software and programming knowledge. First sentence is kinda okay, but the second one, focus on software and programming knowledge. If if you want to become a successful user interface user experience designer, I mean, if you want to become designer in general, you don't need to know programming. At least in my opinion. I mean, I don't know how to program. I have basic knowledge of the technologies that are being used on my job. Like I know which technologies the developers are programming, and then I'm basically just tailoring my design according to their technology. But I don't know in-depth programming. I know basic HTML, CSS, and for me that is enough. So you don't need to focus all of your energy and ambition into like I really do that work. I really need to program before I become designer. That's not the point. Gain experience in the field through freelance work, internships, or in your current job. Well, the best way to gain experience in the field is, I would disagree that it's freelance work because nobody has time to send ridiculous amounts of job proposals and wait for the best. I think it's better to sit on your own if you have enough ambition and patience and just start designing something. I don't know, ask your dad or someone if he needs a website. That's how I started. My dad needed a website for something, and I created him a website. It was shit back then, but it's still something. It's a beginning. Internships are okay, and even better if you have an opportunity if you're working in IT and you want to transfer to, I don't know, if you want to transfer to user experience design, then you can see me at your own company if you can do that. Refresh your abilities periodically by following the emerging tech trends. So taking online UX courses. The first part of the sentence is good, but the second one, which says taking online UX courses, I've taken 3 courses, I finished only 1. They give you only the basics and you basically pay the course for nothing really. They just can, I find courses not motivating enough. Like you finish the course and then what? Like what can I do with that piece of Udemy paper later? I don't know. So you just need to focus on creating something and gaining experience in tools and everything combined, tools and sketches of the design. So yeah, the key point is here, as I said, practice. This is a very, very rewarding job in the long run because it's never dull. It's always exciting because each and every project you start working on, it gives you something back, at least in my opinion, because I love what I'm doing, and I find each and every successful project afterwards, when you see all the metrics and so successful statistics, you get motivation to improve and grow and continue working even more. That's why I can't. But all of that, my experience didn't come overnight. I've been doing this for 4 years now, and I only scratched the surface. So there is much more to user experience, user interface design than people know. When I first started working, I started out with user interface design. And if you want to start out, if you're a beginner with no pre-knowledge, then user interface design is something that you can start working on. Because you will get to know all the tools necessary a little bit easier, and you don't need to handle too many things at the same time like user experience designers do. User experience will come later, and it will come slowly. So user experience is just another step higher in this whole designer process. key takeaways, what I hope I translated to you. So UI is only a part of UX, is the tip of the iceberg. UX is everything from strategy, planning, creating structure, defining interactions, etc. And best tools are either Sketch or Adobe XD, and Adobe XD is a great tool if you want to start out from scratch as a beginner and practice. This is the fourth time I emphasize practice, but it's true, it's practice, and that's it. That's it. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them.
I have some questions.
Oh, no.
So, do you think there are some prejudices regarding the employers having prejudice regarding a degree?
Mm-hmm.
So, someone, as you mentioned before, it doesn't matter, but have you encountered that actually it did help you? Is it maybe, do the gatekeepers within the companies help stop you from getting into the company because of that piece of paper? What is your opinion about that?
Well, it never happened to me, honestly.
Really? Okay.
My previous boss was very against the diplomas, and the only way to get into the company is to show some actual skill.
Mm-hmm.
So no diploma would prepare you for the task he would give you before entering the company. And the second company, it didn't even have like the requirement in the job description to have a bachelor's degree or diploma. So
okay.
And the third job, which I'm currently heading to on Monday, it didn't honestly have a bachelor's diploma either. I mean, there are some cases where companies will list you, will give the information that the bachelor's diploma is actually required, but in the end, if you show up on the job interview well prepared and you show some skill that and knowledge, then it's not a problem. I mean, if there is a requirement, like a really necessary requirement, and if the company and the boss are normal, they will hire you, but they will tell you, like, do you need to finish college? I don't know, 3 years at minimum if you want to continue working here. I don't know, something like that, but it shouldn't, it wasn't a problem in my case.
All right. So I have another question. So when you give out the project to the customer, in a sense that it's clickable and it can be interacted with, how many changes are there afterwards? So from the beginning to the end, so is the project significantly changed after that, or when the person that has the customer is actually using the product?
Well, I have more problems where I gave out just static images. Like I exported PNGs from Sketch and that's it, and hope for the best. Like the user will get it. But I noticed that people get a different feeling when they look it on the paper, like a static image, than clicking on the prototype itself.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, when I create, a lot of clients, when I create a clickable prototype, they ask me, is this a finished website? Can I upload this live? And I'm like, no, you don't. It needs to go through the implementation, but this is only to get you to feel the website, because later on we won't have as many changes, and that's how it is. If I present them with a clickable prototype, there's far less changes than if I give them a piece of paper, like PNGs.
So there's no an aha moment. Oh, so this will look like this. Oh, I want to change this.
There is. They get a clear picture of what they want in the end. Because if I don't send them the prototype, then the clearer picture will show up when the website is live, and we don't want that to happen, because that requires extra work, extra money, and it's just not.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, did you start your first role within the IT world Was it UI interface designer or something else?
Well, I applied on a job proposal that wanted front-end designers.
Okay.
And I went to a job interview, and then they said me, oh, no, you're not gonna do like front end, you're gonna be a UI designer. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what it was, honestly. I knew that UI meant like user interface, but nothing more than that. And that's how I became junior interface designer, and then yeah, they just gave me some projects in the beginning. I found out that the best practice for me as a junior was to copy-paste the websites. So you open up your Adobe XD and you, I don't know, find a website that you really like and just copy-paste the website into your Adobe XD project, and you will get the hang of it, of the tool itself. So it's really useful exercise.
Maybe a funny question, but let's say that you have X number of designers.
Okay.
What amount of those designers should be UX, UI, or should they all be UX, UI?
That's a good question. Well, it depends on the scopes of the project and how many projects does a company have. Because in one team, there should always be one UX designer, one user interface designer, potentially interaction designer, and maybe UX writer. So that's a team of like 4 designers, and there is a team lead, like lead design. So no more than 5 people per project, I would say. So if you have like 10 designers in a company, there would be like 2 groups by 5 designers. But before grouping those designers, company needs to know what kind of designers they need to hire. So okay, for this group we need to one UX, one UI.
It's like you don't have full stack team, you have front end, you have back end.
Exactly. So designers that are specialized in each field separately, and that's the best way you can work on a product that can be high quality.
Anyone else have some questions? Oh, great.
Can you show some your work?
I can show you.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
But maybe go to the next question, but we'll do that also.
Yeah, but we can do that in the end.
Yeah, sure.
Let's cover
Yeah, that was my suggestion. So, okay.
This will basically be a brief question. I'm just wondering, like, for people that are just getting used to the whole idea of UX, UI, do you have any recommendations in regards to like books or literature or courses or something to follow up on this?
There is one pretty good course on Udemy. That's one of those 3 that I actually finished. It's called User Experience Masterclass, something like that. It's not too pricey, it's like 11 or 12 euros, but it's very detailed, and it will get you to the point where you want to be pretty easily, and the trainer is really good.
So that would be like a good starting point.
That's the course, and if you wanna read the articles, I suggest medium.com. It has a bunch of articles, all kinds of categories, but you want to search for UX articles, UX UI articles. You also have Smashing Magazine, and that's it what I read. For inspiration, I use Dribble or Behance if you get stuck on a project or something. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I don't remember everything now, but later on I can show you.
Okay, thanks.
So, Mario, what is your question?
I have a couple of questions also. Speaking of diploma, don't you think that diploma of psychology would be a better fit for designers? Because, like, I'm someone who recently graduated software development, or not computer science to be precise. And from my point of view, I know nothing about design. Well, I know something, but I don't know which color should I put on the button, where should I put the button, I don't know nothing about it. So, but besides that, I know 10 programming languages, SQL databases, everything. Don't you think that psychology would be a better fit for maybe designers? Because you have to think like how other people think.
You need to put yourself into other
Yeah.
people's shoes. Yeah, I agree, but I also think that you don't need to know like each and every aspect of psychology. Like you need to know there should be like a part of psychology that specializes in the humans interacting with digital products. That would be like a psychology major that would be kind of interesting. That would specialize in only that. But yes, I agree. Psychology is a major thing in user experience design because you need to think how the other people think, and you can't be yourself all of the time. You need to be a client when you're designing, and that's the trickiest part of all. Yeah. So yeah, I agree.
Okay, my second question is, in small things, when you don't have a lot of money to hire a designer, are the front-end developers or also designers, and how bad can it be for the end product? Well, from my point of view, I can do front-end development, but designing will be something horrible. Probably.
Well, in my opinion, I mean, I have experienced that kind of situation where front-end developers were in charge of creating all of the design decisions that didn't turn out to be as good as designer would do it. So, in my opinion, there should be a designer, at least one designer, user experience designer, whatever, who could just point you out some major mistakes. Like, dude, you can put like green button if everywhere else is a red button, like those kinds of things. But front-end designers can, at least in my opinion, can simplify the usability, make it a little bit more usable for the end client. They don't necessarily make it look great, but they make it usable. At least the developers I worked with, they had better ideas than I did for some user experience problems, but the visuals were a bit laggy, so that's where I jumped in, and that's it.
Okay, and my third question will be, I know I had a subject in college which had an engineer view of your UX, and I know that you can evaluate user interfaces and user experience. How often is that in practice? By some engineering means, you can evaluate user interfaces. I don't know if you know something about it, but do you do that kind of job?
Yes. So I do that kind of job when. So in my previous company, I did that a lot because we needed to get some clients. So they would send me their old website design, and I needed to evaluate it and throw some critiques. And when it comes to user experience, you can also evaluate it, but then you focus more on some interactions, how this button feels like, is this a drop down or is a checkbox, why it shouldn't be a checkbox and stuff like that. And this, the whole evaluation stuff becomes more prominent if, for example, I'm working in a team and I am a mentor to someone, or I am a design lead, and I need to evaluate the work of the designs that designers do. And I need to keep the same level of design throughout the team, so we don't have some inconsistencies. And then that evaluation becomes more prominent, in my opinion. So,
do you follow some standards for?
Yeah, you have those standards.
Thank you.
Okay, so
So most of us use Google and Microsoft applications all the time. Do you follow all the UX, UI stuff from those companies that are say, if you have a table that's more than 20 rows, do the instant scrolling or pagination, or Are they like putting the standards and you follow them, or?
Well, I'm more prone to following one general standard. Like that difference in following Microsoft guidelines or Apple visual guidelines becomes more prominent, at least in my opinion, when you're designing mobile apps. So you're going to follow iOS standards for designing, or you're following Android standards for designing. And when it comes to websites, there is no, like, I'm going to follow material design. So I like to design what is best for the design for the website at the moment. Like, I don't differentiate too much.
Does anyone else have some questions?
If you have a client with terrible taste, are you telling him the truth terrible or just finish it?
That's a pretty good question. Yeah, I fight a user until somebody wins. You know? No, I politely explain to them why that color can be used here and why this element can behave in a way that they want it to behave. And 80 to 90% of the time they accept it and say, yeah, okay, it's a standard, you're the pro, like whatever. But if we have like a hot-headed client that doesn't want to comply, then we just wing it and create what he wants. And we don't include that in our portfolio later, so that's it.
Is accessibility part of UX, and in practice, do you do the accessibility like for the screen readers, for the deaf people, for the blind ones?
Yeah, you need to, not in all projects, for example, for smaller sites you won't make accessibility tests, but when you're working on a project that is a larger scale, then, and you know that the larger group of people is going to use it, then you need to run some accessibility tests, because design needs to run on be visually appealing on all sorts of monitors. The colors must be adapted to people with color blindness. Fonts need to be big enough for people who have vision is
Impaired.
Yeah, impaired vision. So yeah, there's a lot of things we need to cover.
So yeah.
How much of the theory, design theory, which is very beautiful, sophisticated, when you read it, it's like, it sounds very creative, can you really use in the practice?
Well, for the past 4 years, I've worked with mostly constraints, because usually I want to design something, but I know that the client won't be as happy with that as I am. So you can do whatever you want. You just you need to have an eye for detail, and you need to have that feeling for aesthetics. But that is not something you are born with. That is something you can practice and make it work for you. So it's not something that you need to necessarily have in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It will come naturally later.
Anyone else? Okay. Maybe we'll take a look at those examples.
Yeah.
Perhaps if you want to show some of them. I don't know if they're accessible.
I will show you the stuff that I can show.
All right, sure. Yeah. And maybe later on we can put it up on, when we put it up on Facebook or something, we can link it, or maybe we can do something regarding the, for example, the stuff that you recommended for learning your design.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to show you my dribble page.
Sure.
Because my homework is up. Okay. So as you may notice, I like to do illustrations as well. That is something that takes my mind out of those user interface design stuff and user experience. I can be creative with that, so I find it really awesome. This is some of my work. This is a concept for a period tracker application adapted for iOS. This is a study. Let me open up. I think I must scroll around. This is a study. I played with pastel colors over there. So Dribble is my cozy space where I can experiment with visuals a little bit. There's something cyberpunk-ish, whatever. I also make logos if it's really necessary for the project or something, if the client pays. This is not so good, I'm not going to show this. But yeah, I created this also. There's a studio where I paint my nails.
Do you use the graphic tablet or do you use the mouse or the touchpad?
I use the touchpad. I never use the mouse. So I got used to working on the touchpad, not on the mouse. And the rest of the list is mainly illustrations for some of the projects, pieces, thank you pages, 404 pages, and whatnot. So nothing too special.
Everything is special.
Thank you. That's it basically.